This has been surprising testimony because I think many people will ask what happened to the old Newt Gingrich. We expected an optimist, someone who believes in the creative power of the American economy, but we've had a sudden attack of pessimism that we can't solve this problem. And I want to ask you some questions about that. Perhaps we can put up a chart here on this screen about some questions you were asked on February 15th, 1970, if we can get the first slide up. You were basically asked, you're going to help us out there, I hope. You were basically asked if you supported a cap on carbon in 1970, which basically is what this bill is. This is, 2007. And you said, and I'm just going to read several of your quotes, you said, I think that if you have mandatory caps combined with a trading system, much like we did with sulfur, and if you have a tax incentive program for investing in the solutions, that there's a package that's very, very good. And frankly, it's something I would strongly support. This bill is exactly that package. It is a mandatory cap. It protects Americans from unrestrained pollution. It is exactly what we did for sulfur dioxide. And we'll put up the next slide, please. We'll just take some, just so you'll know I'm not just picking these at random. In the same interview, you said the caps with the trading system on sulfur has worked brilliantly. It has brought free market attitudes, entrepreneurship, and technology and made it very profitable to have less sulfur. So people said, wow, it's worth my time and effort. Next slide, please. You went on to say, and I'll read this. I think, I'll just read the last paragraph. I think that we're right at a tipping point where you could begin to imagine the development of an entirely new generation of systems, where you had a combination of a carbon cap with a trading system. You had prizes for the invention of major breakthroughs, and you had incentives for investing in the new breakthroughs and accelerating their use and their development. And you could imagine a world 15 years from now that is dramatically greener than the world we're currently in. Close quote. Now, the bill that we're working on does basically what you said you wanted to see happen in 2007. It is a mandatory cap. We are no longer allow polluting industries to put pollution in unlimited amounts into the atmosphere. And we are going to require polluting industries to pay some amount for the right to put pollution into this atmosphere. We will use a trading system to have the most efficient, as the market will determine, allocation of that scarce resource. We will have investment in these technologies of the ones that you alluded to. We have incentives in this bill, tax and otherwise, just as you alluded to in 2007. So I'm trying to figure out why this massive change in your position. And I asked myself, well, is it because we found out that this program would be more expensive than we thought? Well, I know that's not the situation. I'm holding a letter of April 14th from Dr. John Riley of MIT, who is the author of this report being quoted by Republicans trying to scare Americans thinking this is going to destroy the economy. And what he said is, quote, Dear Representative Boehner, I write to correct an estimate I sent on April 13th to counter what we feel is a misrepresentation of our work by the National Republican Congressional Committee. Continuing, a correct estimate of that cost, as opposed to auction revenue for the average household just in 2015, is about $80 per family, or $65 if more appropriately stated in present value terms, discounted at an annual 4% rate, close quote. That is 18 cents per day. The Republican Party, unfortunately, is trying to tell people that the continued climate that we have here is too expensive at 18 cents a day. I don't believe that's too expensive. I also believe it could end up being cheaper given the enormous technological creativity of our economy. So I'll just ask you this, just a very, very simple question, Mr. Gingrich. Do you believe a dramatic reduction by use of a cap-and-trade system that would cost Americans 18 cents a day is too much to pay to save the planet?
Well, as I said earlier, I think 2 plus 2 equals 4, and if you think that the $646 billion Obama tax increase in his budget can be translated into 18 cents a day, I think you probably think 2 plus 2 equals 700. The fact is, the cap-and-trade system I supported in 1970 affected 263 units, and at its peak affected 2,000. Now, if you want to write a bill that covers the 2,000 most polluting places and say, fine, those 2,000 are part of cap-and-trade, I'd be glad to look at it.
Could I
include, as I said in the, if you include, as I said in that quote, very strong incentives, I'd be glad to look at it. If you include prizes, I'd be glad to look at it. If you would liberate the nuclear power industry from trial lawyers and regulatory controls, I'd be glad to look at it. This bill does none of those things. This bill actually has the Secretary of Energy regulating jacuzzis. Now, the idea that we're going to have a cap-and-trade system that regulates jacuzzis strikes me as close to being nuts.
Could I just really would like you, I'd like to know what you think about this. By the way, the only jacuzzis this will regulate will have to produce 2,500 megawatts of energy, okay, to be covered. So you don't have to worry about jacuzzis. But just let me ask you this question. In your opinion, do you believe 18 cents a day for the American family is too much to save the planet? You can give us your thoughts about that. What do you think?
I think if you could convince anybody that that's the real price, I said a while ago, then explain the $646 billion that's in the Obama budget. I mean, well, if you and the President have an argument, you don't have an argument with me. I'm citing the President. But let me just ask you, let me ask for a second, because maybe I misunderstood, so maybe you can help me, Congressman Inslee. On page 233, line 5, portable electric spas. Now, I don't know what a portable electric spa is. I was told it was a jacuzzi. But that's in this bill, page 233. Now, that's why I said, when I got to that point, I quit reading the bill.
We will give you a hot spa that is energy efficient. I hope that doesn't offend you. My point is that the economists who are testifying in this committee, including the one called by the Republicans yesterday, said there would be a minimal cost of this. One yesterday, Dr. Jay Apt, former U.S. astronaut, told us that it won't cost us any more than compliance with the Clean Air Act. He said that was well worth the cost. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go back to John Dingell's statement earlier this morning when he said that cap and